in the newspapers, by creating incidents either real or imagined, either promulgated or of genuine extraterrestrial origin. You see, we, the average everyday Joe Blow, has no capability whatsoever to find out whether this is real or whether it is just another ruse to bring about the New World Order. I believe, because of my research and because of the extensive documentation that I've found and that is in my book, that this whole scenario has been created to give us an artificial alien threat from outer space. During the Reagan administration, he made 6 speeches. At the ends of these speeches, I mean, he made more than 6 speeches during his administration. I don't want you to think he just made 6. But he made 6 which specifically talked about a threat from outer space by some other species from some other planet. 6, ladies and gentlemen. Why would the president repeat the same thing 6 times, tagged on to the ends of speeches by him? The speechwriters did not put that in the speech. Ronald Reagan added it himself. One memorable television broadcast of Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev together, Ronald Reagan stated that they had agreed in private that if the Earth was attacked by some other species from some other planet, the United States and the Soviet Union would combine their military forces to repel such an invasion. Mikhail Gorbachev walked to the microphone and said, although he could not foresee anything like this happening in the near future, if it did, that Ronald Reagan was right, we would combine our military forces to repel such an invasion. Coming from the leaders of the 2 greatest, most powerful nations on the face of this earth, this was a powerful suggestion to implant into the minds of the people of the world that there really is a threat from some other species, from some other planet to this earth. Now, is that true? Or is this just a part of a plan to make us believe in this threat in order to get us to put away our national boundaries, to accept whatever sacrifices are called upon us to accept in order to face this threat from outer space? Now, you people out there have been ignoring the UFO phenomenon for too long. You have been ignoring this abductee phenomenon for too long. It has all the earmarks of the most successful, most sophisticated mind control operation in the history of the world, and you are ignoring it. What better way to implement a plan to bring about a one-world government than to create the possibility in the minds of the people of the world that we are being threatened from some other species, from some other planet, and do it in a way that if anybody questions it or challenged it or wants to talk about it publicly, that they are ridiculed. Yet, the idea persists despite the ridicule. And what if, ladies and gentlemen, the government is not keeping anything secret from us? What if, when they tell us that UFOs are no concern to the government or the military because they do not pose a threat to the national security, what if they're telling us the truth? What if they're telling us the truth because it's their technology? It's our technology and there are no extraterrestrials, therefore it does not impose a threat to the national security. But yet the very idea of the government telling us that implants in our minds that the government is withholding information on UFOs. And that could also be true. But in a way that you would never expect. You see, when they tell you UFOs do not exist or can be explained away as natural occurrences and natural explanations, they could be telling us the truth. For, you see, to them, there are no UFOs. To them, this technology is understood and clearly identified as being theirs. So when you ask them a question about UFOs and they say there are no UFOs, UFOs do not pose a threat to the national security, ladies and gentlemen, I believe they are telling us the truth in the context of the information that I have just given you. Do we have such advanced technology? Are there secret military bases called one called Area 51? Could there be a mesa somewhere with the airfield of the future built into it, from which flying disc using a new propulsion technology make forays out into the night? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that there is. And I have proven the existence of one in my video documentary called Project Red Light, and then again in Project Red Light 2. Project Red Light is no longer available, but Project Red Light 2 certainly is. And if you write in and ask for information, we'll send you an information pack telling you how you can get a copy of that video documentary. This base exists in the desert of Nevada on land allotted to the Atomic Energy Commission, the most super secret agency that there is. So finding out anything about this area called Area 51 or Groom Dry Lake is next to impossible. When we tried to get satellite photographs of the area, we could not obtain any from the United States of America. So we went to the Soviet Union and obtained a satellite photograph of the Groom Dry Lake facility, a facility that up until recently the United States government and all its agencies denied existed. No one would take credit for it. No one would tell us who operated this facility. No one would tell us what was out there. But when we got this satellite photograph from the Soviet Union, there it was, a facility, a runway over 30,000 feet long on a dry lake bed, huge hangars. You could clearly see MiGs and other aircraft on the tarmac, and there is no doubt that it exists. Now, let me read to you something here, folks, that's extremely important, because there is a technology flying in our sky that you don't know about. You see, quite a while ago in California, they began to have these strange earthquakes, but they weren't really earthquakes. You see, they were skyquakes. They were caused by some tremendous sonic boom of some tremendously fast aircraft flying at a very high altitude that nobody could see. It was tracked by the ground control approach people at the San Francisco facilities as coming from the Nevada desert in the vicinity of the Groom Dry Lake area, and went off their radar screens at the very top of the atmosphere. Now, don't ask me what that means. Did it go into space? Did it disappear? Did it go into another dimension? I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. I don't have all the answers. I just have an awful lot of clues. Now, these sonic booms are measurable on seismographs, the ones that measure earthquakes. I'm holding in my hand a seismic profile of the recent skyquakes, and this was provided by Jim Morey of Caltech to researcher Victor Martinez. The first indicated mark, actually lying under the 610 time marker, is that recorded by the Catalina Island seismograph. The second, slightly before 611, is that recorded by the Mount Wilson seismograph. Careful scaling, folks, of the original printout indicated that the two skyquakes were 52.5 seconds apart. The two recording seismographs, Catalina Island and Mount Wilson, are nominally 64 miles apart. Thus, the vehicle causing the skyquakes traveled the 64 miles at an average speed of 1.219 miles per second, or 4,388.57 miles per hour. At 40,000 feet, folks, the speed of sound is 640 miles per hour at standard temperature and pressure. Dividing 4,388.57 by 640 yields Mach 6.857. Ah, yes. When you gonna wake up? I don't think that you are, folks. I don't think you're gonna wake up. I'm beginning to believe that it's not going to happen. Orange County Register, May the 24th, 1993. UFO sightings reported near San Francisco. A dozen people tell of seeing X-shaped craft by Jeff Sklansky, Associated Press. San Francisco. More than a dozen people said they saw a UFO racing across the pre-dawn sky north of San Francisco on Thursday. A strange X-shaped craft with blinking lights that hovered above the hills of Sonoma County before speeding away into the dark. A California Highway Patrol officer who declined to be named and radio station KTOB news director Arlette Cohen were among those who reported spotting the strange craft at about 4:30 a.m. between the cities of Petaluma and Sonoma, about 40 miles north of San Francisco. The sightings came on the heels of reports of multicolored UFOs the size of ping-pong balls crowding radar screens in Sao Paulo, Brazil. The government scrambled jet fighters to intercept the tiny objects, and 2 pilots said they saw the objects flying nearby. Quote, "I saw these 2 white lights to the east," unquote, Cohen said, estimating the craft was about 1,000 feet in the air. She said she noticed the UFO when it crossed to the west side of the highway and hovered almost stock still for a few seconds, unquote. Cohen said she was driving to work at her Petaluma station northbound on US 101 and made the sighting shortly before reaching Petaluma. When the craft crossed the highway once again, she said she saw 2 tiny green lights glowing faintly on the side opposite the 2 bright white lights. She said she could hear no sound coming from the craft. Quote, "I think I saw sort of a black X silhouette shape," Cohen said. "It was really hard to tell," unquote. An unidentified object described as a large orange X with white lights in the front was seen traveling at a high rate of speed eastbound from Petaluma. Santa Rosa, California Highway Patrol Officer Bill McChristian said of the report from the unidentified officer and several callers. San Francisco Bay Area air traffic controllers said they could not explain the sighting, saying radar screens detected no such object flying over the area at that time. The North American Aerospace Defense Command in Colorado said no man-made spacecraft would have been visible at 4:30 a.m. in Northern California, but that debris from the Cosmos 1683 satellite reportedly re-entered the atmosphere over California more than an hour later at 5:41. Meanwhile, Brazil's Air Force said it has ordered an investigation into the sighting of tiny balls of light that flew through Brazilian skies at 900 miles an hour and evaded Air Force planes sent up to chase them. "We are looking for a technical explanation for these phenomena. So far, we don't have any," the Air Force Ministry's press office said in Brasilia, the capital. The objects were first sighted Monday night by a private plane near São José dos Campos, an industrial city 210 miles southwest of Rio de Janeiro. The Air Force Minister, General Octavio Moreira Lima, said the objects soon were saturating radar and interfering with air traffic. In São José dos Campos and nearby São Paulo, Brazil's biggest city. Lima said the Air Force sent up 3 French-built Mirage 3 fighters and 2 United States-made F-5E jets to chase the objects, which he described as multicolored balls of light. Instead, the objects pursued one of the planes, he said. One of the pilots reported that 13 of the objects accompanied his aircraft, 7 on one side and 6 on the other, the minister said. The Air Force jets, which confirmed the presence of the UFOs on their radar screens, reportedly flew after the objects for 3 hours until low fuel forced them to return to base. Astronomer Larry Brown of the Hayden Planetarium in New York on Thursday did offer one possible explanation. It may have something to do with the recent passage of Halley's Comet. There's a lot of dust in the air, and when it hits the Earth's atmosphere, it burns brightly. And this is the kind of bullshit that they throw at us. Now, you just heard the reports of all those people, the reports of the jet pilots, and this guy says that it may have something to do with Halley's Comet. There's a lot of dust in the air, and when it hits the Earth's atmosphere, it burns brightly. Wake up, people. Not bird, not plane. Orange County Register, 3593. A strange, unidentified flying object was observed for more than an hour in the sky over Shanghai on Tuesday, the Zenmin Evening News said Thursday. The newspaper quoted witnesses who said they first saw an orange-colored man-shaped object at 7:05 p.m. After 20 minutes, the figure's head radiated red light